This is the Play Your Position podcast, where we huddle up, call the plays, and inspire you to run your ball into the end zone. Are you ready to score more game-winning touchdowns in your life, business, and career? Then listen up, because it's game time, baby. Now, here's your host, Mary Lou Kaiser.
Hello, Team PYP. Happy New Year, and welcome to the Play Your Position podcast, Retrospective 2023, Part 1, which I'm calling The Women. Every year at the end of the year, I like to take the voices of the amazing leaders I had the privilege of speaking with over the past 12 months and putting them together into one large file where we can listen to the ideas and insights and inspiration that they shared. And this year, I decided to do something different. I divided my guests into the women and the men and created two parts. You're hearing part one today, and you'll hear the second part tomorrow. And what you're about to hear today are the voices of 13 incredible women who are out in the world, showing up every day, bringing the best of who they are to the work they do while they serve others as leaders in a variety of capacities. Some of them are solopreneurs, some of them are in the healthcare industry, some of them are in tech, some of them are authors. There's just a whole range of incredible people who said yes to sitting down with me behind the mic and letting us into their lives. It was such a joy to put together this retrospective because I always get inspired all over again by what my guests are doing and saying about what it means to lead, about what it means to play your position, about what it means to remember to dream, and also to go after your dreams. Those were some of the big themes we talked about. You're also going to hear about the importance of delegation. Several of my guests talked about that. We as women need to delegate tasks to others. We are notorious for not doing this. And as my friend Alice Tang likes to say, and she's one of the voices you're going to hear today, she says, take off the superwoman cape, put it in the closet, stop trying to be everything to everyone. And that's a great message. We also want to remember to embrace our divine feminine and look for the divine masculine in the men in our lives. My friend Mimi Chow talks about that. Some other things that come up, the changing face of leadership in the 21st century, the role of artificial intelligence and its impact on the work that we do, the way work is changing, the way healthcare is changing, why it's so important to take action even when you don't feel like it. And believe me, there are times when I don't feel like it, and I do it anyway, and I'm always glad I did. Ultimately, team, it's about keeping our mindset in check. It's about testing and playing and experimenting and honoring ourselves. Do what you need to do to put yourself first, because when you do, things have a tendency to work out well. And so, Team PYP, without further ado, I give you the incredible women of the Play Your Position podcast 2023.
First, you, for those audience are thinking about expanding their circle of influence. You can call it a network, you can call it anything, or mastermind group. If you're thinking about expanding it, and you only have one person that you think, or you have zero person that you are thinking about yet, it's about time to just look at who do you know. So I'm going to divide and conquer. We know people at our workplace. It could be with an ex-employer, could be with the current employer. Who are the people you have interact with and felt that I want to know about Mary Lou, for example, a little bit more. She seems interesting. She seems having an open mind. And by the way, she loves singing karaoke too. Why don't I invite her? I may not be as good as her, but it takes a common interest, right? It takes a common interest. So think about those people you feel good about, you admire. If you haven't gotten your list down yet, just jot down the list. And so that is your workplace. And then there is also your family. There must be cousins, uncle and auntie, or even nephews and nieces, you name it, that you think, I really want to know him, her, them better.
There's a whole emotional roller coaster when it comes to getting stuff done, right? So yes, you have to start with the dream for sure, but you can't. A lot of people die with dreams, no action behind it. So once you decide, so you have your dream, but then you have to decide. Deciding mean like, okay, put the universe, put everybody on alert. Oh, it's about to go down. It's happening. And then you have to get into action. Now, action is very important because a lot of times people are so stuck into perfection and procrastination that action never becomes a reality. And perfection will keep you poor as well as procrastination. So when you are in action, give yourself grace along the way, because when you're in action, you can be guided in the form of, serendipitously, someone can give you a great message, point you in the right direction, or you would invest in yourself to get, okay, well, how do I do this more efficiently? Because time is of essence, or, be open to the direction that you're given. When you are in action, you have to look at and be an observant of how do you show up in your own action? Because oftentimes the past can hold you hostage to your future, meaning that when you think about all the things that went wrong or didn't happen and didn't go your way, or when it went right, but it was like on a smaller scale, now you're thinking about something so much bigger and better, and you don't even know if it's truly possible because at this point it's a dream. Be mindful of how you show up. Allow yourself to say, you know what, this point forward, I get to create what my future looks like. And I also strongly encourage you to imagine yourself already in your future.
I have been writing copy professionally since 1995. So I've been at this for a long time. And I think a lot of copywriters that have been in the craft for decades, when, all of this AI buzz first started coming out, we felt a little bit threatened, or a lot threatened, it might be a better way of putting it, and kind of scared, like, are the robots coming to take over our jobs, right? Well, it was really interesting because, right now, Chat GPT is all the rage, right? That's what we're talking about. Okay. So of course we go into Chat GPT and we're like, well, let's test this and let's play with some things. And I asked Chat GPT 10 different questions about using AI and copywriting, original copywriting, right? And I phrased the question very differently 10 different times because I wanted to see, well, what's it going to pop out for me? And I can tell you 5 of the answers use the exact same words. Yes. Okay. And I was sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've just barely scratched the surface here. And look at this regurgitation.
Most often, more than anything else, how we get in our own way and what stops us is really just a reflection of that. It's driven by our need to survive, and not just surviving like keeping a roof over our head and getting food in our bellies, but so, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, some of those kind of mid-level needs into things even like accomplishment and having there are some needs that have to do with like achieving certain aspects of our career or things like that. And belonging, absolutely belonging is a huge one. Yes. And so, when we're younger, we learn at a very early age who we think we need to be to get those needs met. And we develop this sense of self, this identity or sense of self of who we think we need to be to get by. And really, in a lot of ways, it serves us. So many leaders, so many of my clients are super achievers. They have achieved great things. They've been valedictorians of prestigious places and have had huge accomplishments. And it's served them very well in some ways. And I'm not just talking about super achievers. There's so many things, people who are the smart one, the funny one, the caring one, all these different sort of roles or identities that we may step into or become to get by. And so it can serve us very well, but it also can become limiting, because who is a super achiever if they're not achieving? Who is the smart one if they get something wrong? Who's the accomplished one if they fail? And so that a lot of times is where we start to put up those walls and those barriers to protect ourselves so that we don't step into this area that's potentially very threatening and risky.
Start is with yourself, right? And really becoming the kind of person who can really take on the kind of monumental task it is to run a business. And so that work really begins with you and your own beliefs and your own willingness to suffer, your own sense of mission and purpose. Because when you have that kind of enthusiasm and that core drive, your fingerprints are going to be all over your organization. Your employees will feel it. It will just, you are kind of the heart of your organization when you're starting it out. And so if you don't have a healthy heart there, you're not really going to win.
Yes. So I think the number one important thing that I wanted to touch on quickly is personal growth and development is key and huge to not only product development, what I do, but if you are listening to anything, whatever business you're going to do, whatever new job you're looking for, personal growth and development is key. I am not the same person I was when I started with my first idea. I had to grow. And then this takes us into these other ideas here, right? You have to be open to growing and learning from other people. And then, of course, a belief mindset, because it is very hard, I personally feel, to succeed if you are down all the time and you don't believe in yourself. And so if you are open to learn and open to grow personally, not just your business, because I will tell you, the more I put in my time on myself to grow personally, my business grows. I do better. I sign more deals when I am putting time into me and my personal growth development, not just my product development. And I would assume or think that would be like any business person. The more you're working on yourself and growing, whether it's communication skills or ideation, or, me like learning how to take time apart and practice meditation and calmness, or learning how to believe in yourself, which may start with simple I am statements and writing them 10 times a day, of what you are, so that you can work on believing in yourself.
We're no longer accidentally well. Our parents didn't have to know how to move us, how to feed us, to manage our sleep. We just basically got that, the basic expectations of our genetic material were served to us by our environment through basically no effort of our own. I mean, none of us paid any attention to puberty. We just came out the other side. And now that's no longer the case for young people, because the conditions on the ground have changed so dramatically. And today we have a realization that as technology marches forward in this continuously unbridled fashion, we're beginning to understand that this technology could harm us. And especially now, given all of the conversation around AI and the future that will likely host artificial general intelligence. But I think that this conversation still suggests that technology is going to harm us in the future. And what I saw with, practicing and meeting all these young men and women was that technology is already harming society in ways that, of course, the children act as the canary in the coal mine and are able to show us that changing conditions on the ground so drastically, we can basically invent things over the weekend, and here they are. with no ability to measure what is the impact in the society.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of businesses that are kind of in a zombie state and and they could actually be really successful if we can just get them out of the weeds. Like, I fundamentally believe that. And I think what's going to happen to a lot of businesses is they're just going to stay there, and they're just going to kind of keep, they won't wither, but they're just going to keep trudging along. And the owner of the owner or the owners are just going to be driven into the ground trying to keep it alive. And I think it doesn't have to be that way. That's what it just does not have to be that way. But there's a lot of those businesses out there that could be made way more successful, even without AI. Like, I mean, it's, it's just efficiency and having a sort of I call it the relentless pursuit of time, efficiency, and effectiveness. And I mean, a lot of mums are great at this because we've no choice. When you become a mom, you have to be relentless in your time efficiency and effectiveness. But I actually wrote a post on LinkedIn about this today. I said, it is the relentless pursuit of time efficiency and effectiveness in scaling a business, because of course there's loads of other things to do to scale a businesses, but that's the gateway, is to have the relentless pursuit of time efficiency and effectiveness. Because without that, there's no energy and there's no space to do all the things that need to be done to scale a business. It is the gateway.
The first thing that they need to do is they need to figure out what they should and can delegate. Most of us can look, really just at our own desks or on our inbox and see areas that we can say, okay, I really like to do this, but I know I shouldn't. There's a list there. There's the list of, I hate doing this and I don't like doing this and I don't want to do this. So there's a list there. And what are the things that only I need to be doing? Only I can do this for my company. What is that list? And the two top lists should be delegated to somebody else immediately, because the cost of your time, you start putting that time together and say, well, how long does it take me to book my own travel? It takes me 2 hours. Well, what's your time worth? As a business owner, how much value there is in your own time, and actually do an ROI on it so that you can see right away the cost benefit of having somebody else do that at a lower pay scale. So I think that's number one, is really determining what you can and should delegate.
And as leaders, what I often say is, if we can figure out what we don't want first, and then change that into what we do want, we'll be better leaders. I'll give an example. We worked with an organization. We were doing what we call their key characteristics. Some people call them core values. I like key characteristics better because it describes the people that you want in the organization. So they were like, I said to them, well, who's gotten fired from this organization? Oh, let me tell you who I got. We're really good at the negative because that's where we come from, because we're trying not to die, right? So, let me tell you about these people. I thought, okay, what was wrong with them? You have a whole list of what's wrong with them. And I said, well, okay, now if these people are really amazing, looking at your wrong list, so to speak, what would be your right list? And so there's no problem in starting with the wrong. That's how we think, because wrong is don't die. It's truth. And if you can make the switch to what's right, then your brain can actually get trained to move to just the what's right, because you can't get rid of the what's wrong.
And whether you call it remote work or distributed work or flexible work, there's so many ways to look at it. I do think that we have entered a new era of work, and that we're not going back to the 2019 and earlier styles of working. And there are a few reasons for it. And you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned flexibility, freedom, taking cars off roads, and the sheer cost savings of it. Real estate is the second biggest cost that corporations incur after payroll. And so if you no longer need to pay for space 7 days a week when your teams are maybe only using it once or twice, my goodness, that's a huge financial burden that's now been alleviated, while offering people the kind of flexibility and choice that they crave. So for me, I really see it as a win-win.
People didn't really talk about leaders except political leaders or world leaders. It was managing. And now it is really evolved into understanding that leaders have a different role. So it is around developing people, like I said, getting them to make the decision. It's about keeping them on target, right? There's so many distractions, and you just talked about a few of them, but there's also distractions like internally. I was working with a client, very, very, very successful, had high targets for their people, almost like, well, we can never make this happen, right? We did work around mindset around that. But what happened was, it was so incredibly interesting that people would start to get distracted by this number. I have to increase my sales by 50%. I can't do that. I can't do it. I can't do that. And it really became a distraction. So the leader would come in and talk about, listen, you have these great, let's sit down. You have these great skills. Let's leverage these so you can make it happen. So a leader becomes, I think, a person who opens up the world for the people that are reporting into them or that they're working with. They really get them, as I said before, to understand who they can be and to believe in them, right? Because a lot of times we don't believe in ourselves. When someone who is in a leader position believes in us, it has such an impact.
Today, we're talking about amplifying and empowering the divine feminine to that place where we can offset and creating balance in the world. Because in everything in life, it's about the balance. If it's technology or if it's us spending time in nature, it's just the balance. There's no one way or the other way. And so the divine masculine, it's what help people feel safe. It is the space where we are making money, where we're provided for, which is our natural right. And it is, yeah, it's a beautiful, full thing to see also, where there's men that are balanced and they're divine masculine. You're going to notice that he respects a woman. He is chivalrous. And it's just a beautiful dance between the two people or the two energy. So there are men who are more feminine, and there is a woman who is more masculine, and that way it's harmonious, and so they can create that dance. Or you can notice that, you and I, Mary Lou, will probably shift in and out of our feminine or masculine energy. And so when we notice that we're talking about leaders here, so if we have any CEOs and leaders who are women, and that we notice how we feel when we start to be too much in our masculine energy, that we feel drained, we feel, yeah, it is that burnt out feeling as to what's going on. And then as we notice when we start dropping in back into the feminine of being in nature, of creating my own future, I invite everyone to tap into the abundance meditation. That's a very feminine way. And then I'll speak into how that's important in leadership. It's because making money and creating achievement is very different than tapping into abundance. Mindset, the way of being, is that opportunities are available, and that when there are opportunities, and 2023, my word, Mary Lou, I don't know if you have a word for 2023. Mine is alignment. And so when we are harmonizing the energy of abundance within us and being open and receptive, then we can see things that we didn't see before. There's an opportunity over here, but when you're so narrow focus on the practical things and doing things that make sense, you might not see the opportunity over here. And that opportunity is what create that abundance, and that will amplify that sense of love and energy within our body, where we're so excited to create something that we really care about. We are creating communities behind this. And then overall, the feedback you get from the external world, it's in that transfer of money.
And that's a wrap for the Play Your Position Retrospective 2023. The women, I can't think of a better way to end that episode then with the message of abundance, because when we think abundantly, the world opens up to us. Opportunities open up to us. The money flows and we just feel good about who we are. And listen, team, if you enjoyed today's episode, would you do me a favor? Would you text me what you liked about today's episode? I'm going to give you my text number, and I'm also putting it in the show notes, along with the names of the 13 women you just heard from, with a way to connect with them online. My number to text me is 503-567-8730. Let me know what you liked about it. Tell me your name if I don't know you. And you can also let me know what you'd like to hear about in 2024, because we are right around the corner from that. Be on the lookout for the PYP 2023 Retrospective, The Men. That's going to drop tomorrow. And if you liked this episode, feel free to share it on the socials. Feel free to send it to a friend. Let me know what you liked. I will respond to texts. I would ask to keep them nice, keep them kind, keep the good cheer in mind. So thank you, Team PYP. Catch you next time. This is Mary Lou Kaiser. Remember, it's always a great day to get out there and play your position. Happy New Year.
Here at the Play Your Position podcast, we believe that the road to self-mastery and a life well lived starts with answering the call to leadership. That's when the fun really begins. Send this episode to any friends who might need to hear the inspiration and ideas you heard today. And feel free to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform.